For those of you that follow this Edible Acres channel, you'll know that there's definitely a theme of some of the work that we're doing as a permaculture nursery. We're always experimenting with different ways to propagate plants. In fact, I set up a playlist where we document our experiments, which I'll link to here. And this is a relatively new experiment that I wanted to wait until there were indicators that it was very promising before I made an introductory video. I still would put it in the category of a promising technique, not by any stretch a proven or, oh, this is the way to propagate technique. But for those of you, the timing is such that if you wanted to experiment along with me, we're at a good time for it. This is a softwood cuttings propagation setup that I'm trialing that so far feels quite productive. We'll see how it goes. This is about a week, 2 weeks that this has been set up. And what we have here is this was an old 55-gallon plastic HDPE drum that I cut in half lengthwise for other projects and just set it up here in the full sun. Filled it with rainwater from our rain tank and then put in 2 air stones, and I have an air bubbler in our high tunnel, which I'll show a shot of, that is protected from the rain, and that's running 24 hours a day. It draws about 3 watts, and so what we have here is relatively clean, low nutrient water that is being constantly aerated, and this 1/2 inch by 1 inch mesh, which I put over it, in part it's to keep creatures from falling in and drowning, but there's also a little hose that they can get out. But the main reason I have it is to be able to hold up these softwood cuttings. And so 2 weeks ago I put in I only put in 1 or 2 cuttings to see. And here's an example. This is a softwood cutting of Aronia melanocarpa. And what I'm seeing here that tells me that this is very promising are 2 things. I'm seeing these white points. These are lenticels. They're basically clusters of stem cells that once they start swelling like that, from what I understand it's called proto roots. They're the beginning of a root development. And at the bottom I'm seeing a really healthy ring of light callus and swelling. And now this was a softwood cutting that was simply dropped in aerated rainwater in full sun for 2 weeks. The other key things that I've seen that I really like about what's happening here is, number 1, the leaves, at no point did they lose any turgor. In other words, they didn't flop down and show that they were under stress. So I made the cutting, the leaves hold it in its little reservoir. You can see here are 2 sample sea berry cuttings. These are showing me a little less promise, but we'll see. I got feedback from someone a ways ago that they used aerated water, spring water, and were able to root sea berry that way. This one is showing me more promise. It's very subtle, but I see a slight swelling point near the base, and I see, it might not even show up on the camera, so I can just describe it. I see some key white swelling points along the stem that to me indicate that it's about ready to push some roots. So having that promising initial response with these, I guess I should also say I took some cuttings of Siberian peach and dropped them in. And these, like the Aronia, are showing swelling white points at the bottom as well as a really healthy ring of white callus at the bottom. Now I added no nutrient, there's no chemical rooting hormone, no toxic whatnot. It's just a 3-watt bubbler with rainwater in the sun. And so yesterday I went through and I took cuttings of Nanking cherry, of goji berry, of seedless grapes, and more Siberian peaches, and dropped them in through these areas, and where they're named cultivars, I marked them in their row and the date that we started them. And my idea is to basically fill this entire mesh. I should be able to do upwards to 1,000 softwood cuttings. So hardy kiwi, autumn olive, gumi, more sea berry, named varieties. I'll be trialing all of those. Worst case, it doesn't work out, we dump it, we'll use this for something else. But we'll keep you up to date on this. I've had a hard time with softwood cuttings because the other ways that I know to do it are in sand beds where you need to water them many times per day. We're just simply not set up for that. So far, dropping in these cuttings, they seem really promising to us. We'll share notes as they go, and hopefully there's some food for thought here that might be compelling to you. Thanks for watching.